Hello, I'm going to demonstrate how to use your FTP accounts with FileZilla to post your web pages and the content for your web pages. FileZilla is just one of many FTP client softwares that are available for free on the web. Now, each of you should have received a document that contains your FTP account information. This will include the host name, in other words, your FTP address, your username, and your password, and the web address or the URL for your website. Now, please notice that your username does take the form of an email address. However, this is not a working email address. Now, as you can see, I have already gone onto the FileZilla website and I have downloaded and installed the software to my computer. Please make sure that you download and install the FileZilla client software and not the server software. Okay, I'm going to use my FTP account information, and I'm going to put in my host, ftp.dccc.webtech.org. Notice it's FTP and not www. My username at dccc.webtech.org, and my password. I'm going to leave port blank, but by default, the port for FTP is 21. Now, please note that students may not change their password. However, if it becomes necessary to change your password, please email the instructor and I will be happy to make the change. Okay, now that I've keyed in my information, I am going to click Quick Connect. And it will take just a few moments to reach out across the internet and communicate with the web server or the FTP server. Now, this is good. As you can see, it reads directory listing successful. This is my directory, or what is also known as this is my root folder. You should treat this as your www folder. Okay. Now, as you can see on my desktop, I have already placed my www folder, and what I have in here is the content from the HTML Lab 1. Okay, I have my index page and my images folder. I'm going to double click on my index page, just remind you what this lab looked like. I'm sorry, this is HTML Lab 2. Okay. All right, so I'm going to place on my FTP account in that directory folder the web page and these two images. Okay, so I'm going to close the page. All right, and I'm going to close this, and there's no need to zip this. Okay, now the way the FTP client software works is, I'm going to pull this down just so it's a little easier to read, but on this side, on the left side is the local computer, my computer, and on the right panel side, this is actually the FTP server, and as you can see, I don't have anything in my folder or directory. So here I'm going to navigate to the desktop. Okay, and if I look on my desktop, I should find my www folder. I'm sorry, here we go. As you can see, I have a lot of information on my desktop. I need to clean it up. Okay, there's my www folder, and I'm going to double click on it, and there are the contents of it. And I'm just going to merely click and drag. I'm going to drag my index page over. And I'm going to, as you can see, it's already loading, and I'm going to grab my images folder and drop it. That's one of the nice conveniences of using FTP, is that FTP has no trouble transferring folders. Okay, so there I have my index page and my images folder with my images. Now, I would not want to double click on my index page and try to view my page from inside the FTP client. Rather, I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to open up my browser. And of course, this should work on any browser. And I'm going to put in my address, www.dccc webtech.org/ my directory name, and you can leave. You can stop there, but sometimes it's a little more precise to go ahead and place another slash. What we're indicating is that we want to go to this folder or directory, mghuntam, which is my directory on the server. And I'm going to simply press enter. And if it works, and it did, my web page is now displayed. If your content is not displaying properly, like your images are not showing up or your links may not be working, then the problem is with your HTML, your code. The reality is that when we create HTML files or web pages and we view them on our local machine, our computer, the browser will often give us a little bit of flexibility if there's problems in our code. However, the FTP server or the web server is not so forgiving. And if you have any little bit of typos or your tags are not being used correctly, your content will not be displayed. Okay, so if I were to discover an error, what I would do is, I'm going to minimize this, I don't even have to close it, is I would go back to my desktop and I would edit and update or correct my index page. And then after updating it, then I would merely go back into the FileZilla and I would simply push it over again. Okay. Notice, and it is letting me know that the target already exists, and yes, I do want to overwrite, so I'm going to click OK. And as you can see, that took just a few seconds, and now if there were any errors, hopefully I've corrected them, and I would go back to my website address, refresh, and hopefully my changes, my corrections would come across. Okay. I hope this video has been helpful and will help you in completing your assignments for the class. Have a good day.